May 11, 1960 seemed like a completely normal day for Ricardo Clement. He lived in Argentina and spent most of his day at his job, working for Mercedes-Benz in Buenos Aires. As was his usual routine, Ricardo got on a bus every evening, eager to get back to his wife and kids. Unfortunately, that day, he missed his usual bus and was an hour and a half late. In a hurry, he started walking home on the sidewalk. Suddenly, a man appeared out of nowhere calling him out in Spanish. Ricardo had no idea what he wanted, and he didn't want to wait and find out. But before he could speed up anymore, two men appeared in front of him. There was no way out. All three men wrestled Ricardo to the ground and quickly threw him in the back of a car. Inside, he was tied up and gagged. The car sped off, heading to a nearby safe house. Now, before you feel bad about our family man Ricardo, that wasn't his real identity. Ricardo Clement was a fake name given to a man named Adolf Eichmann. Adolf Eichmann had a nickname, the Architect of the Holocaust. Yes, our humble car salesman with a wife and kids was really the man that was behind some of the worst crimes committed by Germany in World War II. And now he was in the hands of the world's most secretive intelligence agency, Mossad. Think of Mossad as Israel's version of the CIA, except they're smaller, more nimble, more secretive, and way more ruthless. Since World War II, Israel has killed more people in targeted assassinations than any other country in the Western world. In just 70 years of its existence, it's carried out over 2,700 operations, including kidnappings, torturing, stealing secrets, and more. Mossad has killed so many people over the years that they even had their own Wikipedia page called List of Israeli Assassinations. And on that day in 1960, Mossad had just successfully captured the most wanted German in the world in the span of 10 minutes. Right after the war, Adolf Eichmann was captured by the US, but quickly escaped and fled to Argentina. 5 years later, reports started surfacing that he was hiding in Argentina under a false identity. After months of surveillance and research, it was confirmed. Ricardo Clement, a nobody employee at Mercedes-Benz, was one of Mossad's most wanted, and the orders were given to bring him back to Israel. The 8-man Mossad team tailed Eichmann for weeks. He had made the same mistake everyone does when they get too comfortable. He got into a routine. He would leave for work at the same time every day, come home at the same time every day, and use the exact same bus without fail. On May 11th, the mission had almost been aborted when he didn't show up for his usual bus, but a little patience had been all they needed, and soon they spotted their targets. Tied up and gagged, Eichmann was taken to a Mossad safe house where he was interrogated for 9 days to make sure they had the right guy. Back in the 50s, there wasn't CCTV or facial recognition, so the only way to know they had the right guy was for him to confess, which he did. The only thing left was to extract him back to Israel. The 8 Israeli agents dressed him up as an Israeli airline flight attendant, stuck him in first class, heavily sedated him, and passed him off as a sick employee. When he arrived in Israel, he was quickly put on trial, which saw testimony from more than 100 of his victims and witnesses. Adolf Eichmann was executed by hanging in 1962. It was Mossad's first major operational success. The agency had flexed its muscles, and now it was out for blood. This is Mossad, the most trigger-happy spy agency in the world. Mossad thrives off its ability to stay in the shadows and keep its operations a secret. One of the reasons why the agency is so revered is because people know almost nothing about it. We know it was founded in 1950, soon after the Jews started settling in what would become Israel, but we didn't even know who its director was until 1996. Unlike other spy agencies, Mossad works almost 100% in the shadows, reporting only to the Prime Minister of Israel, and having no real laws that define what it can or can't do. Now you might be wondering, how does a country so small with a population of only around 9 million people develop one of the most respected and sophisticated intelligence agencies in the world? Out of desperation. Israel is a tiny nation surrounded by people that absolutely want to destroy them from all sides. And when you're a nation in a precarious situation like this, you're gonna need to turn to some desperate measures to keep your country safe. You see, with enemies all around them, the leaders of Israel realized that they were gonna need way more than just an army to avoid being wiped off the face of the earth. To give you an idea of the disadvantage they're at, the Israeli Defense Force has around 170,000 active personnel, while Iran, their arch-enemy, has over 600,000. So, assassinations, kidnappings, torturings, it all becomes fair game when your life is at stake. Today, Israel is supported by the US, who supplies them with weapons, military tech, planes, and billions of dollars in military aid each year. So even though its army is so small, it's one of the strongest in the Middle East. But way back in the 50s when the nation was just finding its feet, it was way less capable, and needed a way to discover and eliminate threats quickly and quietly. Enter Mossad. Israel's National Intelligence Agency, and one of 3 organizations in Israel's intelligence community. They share their space with Amman, Israel's military intelligence, and the Shin Bet for internal security. And although these 3 agencies often cooperate on missions, no one has gained as much infamy for their successes and their failures as Mossad. One of the main focuses of Mossad is gathering intel on a threat much closer to home, the Palestinians. There have been dozens of attacks over the years, but none as bad as the Munich Olympics massacre in 1972. A group of Palestinian militants, known as Black September, attacked the Israeli athletes and coaches participating in the games. 11 hostages were killed, along with a couple Palestinians. The German government set out to investigate, but it wasn't enough for Israel. Instead, Mossad created a special hit squad under the codename Operation Wrath of God. Their mission? Find and eliminate anyone involved in the attack, directly or indirectly. Over the next year or so, Mossad agents assassinated almost every last one of the Palestinians in Black September. They were so eager for revenge, they even killed an innocent Moroccan waiter in Norway, mistaking him for another name on their kill list. You'd imagine Mossad would slow down after killing an innocent man, but they didn't. They were there to eliminate their enemies, and sometimes collateral damage is just a part of the game. So Mossad became even more infamous. So much so that an Israeli journalism agency called the Jerusalem Post reported on Operation Wrath of God years later as a massive success, not once mentioning that Mossad had slipped up. This became the status quo for Mossad's reputation in Israel. They became infamous for their successes and abilities, with their mistakes and failures quickly brushed off as hazards of the trade. Since 2004, Mossad had been tasked with sabotaging Iran's nuclear weapons program. According to Israeli intelligence, Iran was working on a covert program to develop a nuclear warhead small enough to fit on top of their long-range missiles. So since 2007, Mossad had assassinated the Iranian general in charge of missile development, 16 members of his team, along with 5 Iranian nuclear scientists. But one man kept escaping Mossad's grasp: Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, the father of Iran's nuclear program. Mossad had used a number of different techniques for the other assassinations: poison, a remote bomb attached to a motorcycle, riding up next to the target in a motorcycle, then shooting through the window or attaching a sticky bomb to the car. But the planning for those were too complex and too risky. It led to assets getting caught and executed. So this time, Mossad was going to try something new: a remote-controlled machine gun hidden in the back of an unsuspecting pickup truck. You heard that right. Something like this had never been tried by them before. But due to circumstances, the plan was both approved by Israel and the US. First, they had to figure out how to get the weapon in place. The weapon of choice was a modified version of the FN Mag machine gun, attached to a robot arm with cameras, kinda like this off-the-rack Sentinel 20 robot machine gun. But altogether, the system weighed around a ton, so it had to be broken down and smuggled into Iran in parts. The weapon was reassembled onto a common pickup truck model in Iran, and the robot was equipped with facial recognition and software to account for both the gun's recoil and the 1.6-second delay in the video feed. And the truck was rigged with explosives to detonate after the job was done to destroy evidence. And then the game was on. Friday, November 27, 2020, Fakhrizadeh starts his commute with his wife in the car, escorted by an armored convoy. His car, however, was not armored. He had received a warning of a potential assassination attempt on him that day, and he chose to ignore it. The pickup truck with the remote-controlled machine gun was placed along their route, right in front of a speed bump. Once the convoy got into the kill zone, the remote-controlled machine gun fired in at least 3 bursts, and in under 60 seconds, the father of Iran's nuclear program was assassinated, and the truck exploded. Unfortunately, the explosives didn't successfully destroy the weapon system, and the Iranians got a hold of the evidence. If it wasn't for that hiccup, the world might have never known just how advanced Mossad had gone with their wet work. Although Mossad is supposed to be an intelligence agency at heart, over the years it has become just as much an execution agency, and they've become masters at their craft. Now, whenever a name comes up for elimination, agents know exactly what to do. Take it to the Prime Minister. Once he and his top ministers decide the target is worth going after, the kill order is issued, and then it's time to arrange a meeting between the target and God. Whether it's using fake passports and assassinating members of Hamas, Palestine's resistance movement in places like Dubai or Tunisia, or going after Iranian nuclear scientists in the name of protecting Israel, Mossad agents are experts at killing people and disappearing soon after. And every time word gets out about another successful hit, more and more Israeli citizens rush to join the agency. This fact, the outright support of Israelis for Mossad's assassinations, is one of the biggest factors that sets the agency apart from all others. Unlike agencies like the CIA or MI6, Israeli spies don't have the luxury of printing new passports whenever they have to head out on a new mission. American and British passports are strong and accepted in most countries, while Israelis are suspected pretty much everywhere they go. Their solution? Use the passports of real Israeli dual citizens from all over the world. That's how Mossad teams could get into Dubai and other unfriendly territories without being noticed. They find a willing Israeli who has dual citizenship and a passport from somewhere like Germany or America, they borrow their passport, complete the mission, and quietly return the passport to its original owner. And it's not like this is by force either. Israelis willingly volunteer their passports on a regular basis. And that's not all. Across the world, every Jewish or Israeli man, woman, student, or general worker can become what they call a sayanim, a helper. Probably not pronouncing that right. Sayanim are unpaid assets of the Mossad that are used to pass messages, transport weapons, or make life easier for Mossad agents all over the world. Just in America, there's an estimated 16,000 of these Sayanims, waiting on the sidelines whenever a Mossad agent needs help. This could be renting them a car, letting them use their property for a while, or even just being a witness or alibi to get Mossad agents out of trouble. It's this sort of patriotism and willingness to put their lives on the line for their countrymen that allow Mossad, one of the smallest intelligence agencies in the world, to become one of the most feared in the world. You know who else was Jewish? Everyone's favorite private island owner, Efri Jeffstein. I have Jewish friends that I love, don't get all offended please. We have an exclusive documentary coming out soon on Efri Jeffstein that will only be available to members of this channel. And you can join right now by clicking the join button below, or the link below if you don't see the join button. You'll get access to the past private documentaries that our members have been raving about, and this one when it comes out in the next few weeks. I put out new private documentaries every month on things that are too controversial to post publicly that they will never teach you in business school. And if you join and don't think it's worth it, email me and I will personally give you a refund. Click that join button below to join now.